Talk with Tyson Bryden. Come on for the ride. We'll take you inside. Non-stop rock talk. It's non-stop rock talk with Tyson Bryden. Come on for the ride. We'll take you inside.
Welcome to Nonstop Rock Talk. This is your host, Tyson Bryden. Today it gives me a great pleasure to welcome from legendary Texas band Dangerous Toys and Broken Teeth as well, vocalist Jason McMaster. Jason, welcome. How's it going?
Welcome. Are you recording?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. Love it.
Yeah.
Make sure we get all the good stuff. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. I mean, I have been a Dangerous Toys fan since the first album.
Awesome.
So, I mean, up here in Canada, I mean, Much Music. I remember seeing the video for Teasin' Pleasin' on a thing called the Power Hour, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it was kind of like our version of the Headbangers Ball.
Okay.
And it was
I'm familiar with Much Music, but that's cool. They had like a rock show they were playing, new stuff on that was, hard and heavy kind of thing. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it was good. It was, like everything that was coming out new. If a new video was coming out, a new band, and Dangerous Toys was one of them, and seeing the Teasin' Pleasin' video on there for the first time. And I remember thinking, I mean, I had seen the ad in one of the magazines for the album, and I was like, well, this is kind of interesting. I didn't know what to expect, how it was going to sound until you saw the video, right? And from there, it was kind of like, oh my God, this band is awesome. And all my buddies grasped onto the band as well.
That's good. You had a hive mind going on there. That's good. We, it's not something that actually gets. I mean, it gets talked about. Well, the concept of your album cover art, and the I hate calling him a mascot, but let's face it, that's kind of what he is. Yeah. We call him Bill Z Bub, the clown Bill. We were not seemingly not concerned about the sound of the band is what it is, and then just having the scary clown on there was supposed to tie in with the name of the band and not necessarily what the sound of the band. I mean, the scary clown vibe, we could have been a heavier, thrashier type of a sound with artwork like that.
Yeah.
But the fact that we had, sure, it was dangerous sounding, you could tell, oh, damn, these guys are, the subject matter and the, it's loud rock. So it worked. But I don't remember any of us, whether managers, it was new management at the time, people we just met that were investing in us. We didn't really talk about the sound of the band versus, well, does that album cover work? It's like, dude, does the name of the band even work? It's not. At the time when we came up with the band name, I mean, I'd only been in the band for just a few months.
Yeah.
And I had come from a thrash band, like a technical speed, kind of very progressive math metal type of band before they even called it that, called Watchtower. And I had been doing that for 8 or 9 years prior. So, I was just trying to help these guys come up with something cool. Whether we were going, that doesn't really fit the name or the sound of the band, we just got lucky.
Yeah.
And we thought the name of the band was not great, and we actually planned on changing it, and it was just like a placeholder, and then we started getting booked, and then next thing you know, we got a record deal, like we got hit by a bus. We did, it's just everything happened overnight. So it's crazy. But that's cool when that came out that summer that you saw it and you dug it and you put it all together and your friends were all like, oh yeah, let's go.
I mean, we were to the point of we were pretty big fans, and this is funny to admit. Well, maybe not, but we had a buddy who was an artist and he actually drew a pair of pants with the clown on these pants, and those pants are still
cool.
around today. Like,
Wow.
like I had Paul on not too long ago, and I was telling him that story about our buddy who had these pants, and he did this artwork with the pants. But I mean, it was to the point where we used to recite, we would joke about the lyrics to Tease and Pleasing, man, I think I got the wrong house kind of thing. We would kind of say that to each other. And the band was kind of like our thing because nobody else really knew about them. And there was just our little circle of like, oh man, this band Dangerous Toys is so cool. Like, and we all dug it. And I remember,
Awesome.
I remember buying a t-shirt with the first cover on it that had Sportin' the Woody on the back of, that said it on the back of the t-shirt, and wearing that to school. And my dad took me to go buy it, which was funny. And he didn't even clue into what it said onto the back, like he just said, go do your thing. Right. So
Awesome dad right there.
Yeah. Yeah. He
Letting you figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was not censoring you. I mean, it did, Sportin' the Woody is an innuendo enough, and you either know what that is or you don't.
Right.
It's not foul language by any means. So trying to come up with the silly, clever, yet it be kind of knuckle dragger, kind of, it's dumb song about a hard on, it's kind of, that was kind of part of our thing too, was the, no brain, no pain, have fun. And as long as you're staying out of trouble,
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool.
There was like a comedic side to it a little bit too, right? There was a seriousness, like a song like Scared was, the Alice Cooper vibe, but there was also that side that had a little bit of comedy to it, and we kind of embraced that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and then there was some horrific moments, not so much Scared. Scared's a little bit more melancholy, I feel. It was Scared and Queen of the Nile and things like that were a little bit more of a psyche thing. And then Bones in the Gutter was all out like a murder mystery.
Yeah.
Which that's probably my favorite. That's probably my favorite song on the first record is Bones in the Gutter. And that was probably that and probably Queen of the Nile if I had to pick songs, because, songwriting was still fairly new when my previous band, the other guys wrote the lyrics and the music, and I just wrote the melodies. I took their lyrics and sang melodies over their music, and that was my contribution. And in Dangerous Toys, I was boom, you're a songwriter. You write the lyrics, you write the melodies, you bring in riffs. There's, I was a creator all of a sudden, and I really liked this new creative palette that I was almost like, oh, it's time to, write some songs because we need more songs because somebody thinks that we're cool enough to go make a record. So, holy crap. And, the first song I wrote with these guys was Here Comes Trouble. And that was like the first lyrics, like finished set of lyrics to a song that I ever wrote.
Wow.
And and it was okay, and I was proud, but I was a little shaky on it because it was my first, little storyline or whatever. And I was trying to be tough and hard, I was trying to be hard, and, I'm not, I was a mama's boy and whatever, but trying to be hard, Anyway, and then Queen of the Nile and Bones in the Gutter, and I said, oh, I can kind of write any kind of story I want and use imagery and create colors with words however I want. And, although Here Comes Trouble is just pretty much about a bad guy and having a bad attitude, addicted to drugs and F the church and F school and look out, I'm a bad guy and I'm bulling a china shop and I'm coming to your house and I might drop a match,
Yeah.
And just danger, right? And then, like I said, Bones and Queen came along, and I was like, oh. So and it's happened fast. So I set the bar pretty high, but ultimately I didn't really like anything. I wasn't can I say proud of anything that I wrote until I was like 30 years old. So it would have been between 5 and 7 years later.
Wow.
Yeah. It's weird.
And I mean, we took to Take Me Drunk because we were teenagers, right? So Take Me Drunk was like this cool song, and we're like, oh, this song's badass. And then you had Spartan and Woody, as I mentioned before, and Tease and Please. And so that album, I think I had it on tape initially. We probably wore the hell out of it because we listened to it so much. Yeah.
Well, I've heard people kind of put it in sort of a classic rock bin now. Enough time has passed, and I mean, I wouldn't call it like an underground hit. You know, it actually charted and did okay. I mean, even though the hits were, you could use the word marginal, they were, they weren't these giant, it's not Living on a Prayer, right. But still had this cool kind of like cool kid vibe, bad attitude kind of thing. So it kind of hit some kind of level and sort of stayed there. But whoever fell in love with it, I mean, they still put it up there with anything else. And that's great to even be able to say that there was enough of us, that the record made a difference in their, pre-adult, when they're 15, 16, 17, and they like rebellious and, sneaking six packs and, going out cruising around the neighborhood and, I think that it was a great sort of coming of age time. I mean, that summer of '89 was great. I don't have to tell you that.
No, it was awesome. I mean, that was one of the albums, like you said, cruising in the car, you'd put that tape in and you'd listen to the whole thing. And you'd be singing along with your buddies, and we'd be doing that scat on Tease and Please and back to each other. You know what I mean? Like, it was just one of those really cool things. And like I said, I mean, Dangerous Toys was one of those bands that was kind of our thing, and and when I listen to it today, it still reminds me of those times, right?
Yeah,
it's timeless.
Well, it's a window in time, isn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely.
When you hear a song, it can take you right there. You smell what the room you were in. You smell, that's how your brain works. It's like if I say a word that is a color, I don't have to describe the color to you. You already know what the color looks like in your brain just by me suggesting it. Yeah. So that's how music is. So it's important, and that's cool that it made a difference and made any impact at all, and people can think about where they were when they heard it and the good times they had, and being a bit older now, those are the kind of songs that I'm trying to write, and I'm a headbanger, and here I am in my 60s trying to write these songs that deal with that psyche and are like closer to the idea of, lyrically anyway, how you feel when you pick up a photo album at your parents' house.
Yeah. Good point.
And that's important to me now, as to where writing these fantastical stories that, whether they're autobiographical or not, autobiographical or not, is not, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? I'm trying to write thoughtful, considerate lyrics that might be dangerous because of what it is I might be talking about, but I want them to emote something that is familiar to your third eye. And that's not, I'll say it again, that thinking wasn't on my radar when I was 21.
Yeah.
At all. I was writing about what I knew and what I could see in front of my face, in an analog world.
Yeah, good point. And then going into Hellacious Acres, did your perspective change a little bit, that you wanted to, in terms of, I mean, you wrote that first album, your first attempt, and then going into the next album, so you had a little bit more experience. What was
Yeah.
kind of your mindset going into that?
Well, that's a great question. The experience going into writing the material for Hellacious Acres was more or less an extension of, we had been on the road for a year. We had gathered a bunch of momentum. We were pretty much the same dudes. But, a lot of us, we never really had a whole lot, so it's kind of like all of a sudden you're on a bus playing gigs every night, and sometimes you're opening for your idols, and it's like this crazy world you're thrust into, and the whole thing was a big dream kind of a thing. But then they pull you off the road to write your sophomore effort. And I didn't agree with that. I've said this in interviews before. The label was telling management, it's like, yeah, y'all need to go home. What do you mean go home? Well, the window of opportunity, quote, is closing. And it's like the time, you guys are, I asked the questions before they could tell me. I go, well, are we selling units? Yeah, your record's selling great. I go, okay, that's good. How about on this tour we're on? Is our merchandise numbers high? Oh yeah, you're outselling the headliner some nights. I'm like, holy shit. Okay, great. And you want to do what?
That's crazy.
You want to shut it down? You want to shut this down? We're printing money for you, and you want to shut this down in hopes that we can write a record that'll do this again, but more. Why don't we milk this another 6 months? That was my intent of suggestion. And it wasn't just, it was everyone felt that way. We lost. We went home and we started writing. We had Gimme No Lip already. We had Angel and You, which was written at like sound checks and stuff while we were on tour. And it was just a jam at sound check. Hey, keep playing that riff. That's cool. And I'd vibe out, and we would just we'd play that riff for 20 minutes, and the sound guy would dial it all in, and Scott would solo over it, and I would just croon. And that's how Angel and You was written. And then, like I said, Gimme No Lip is old. I think we had that one in the interim, if you will.
Right.
And then, we got the deal, and we were about to go record, and Gimme No Lip was born in that sort of time. And there were parts of Hellacious Acres that we had little ditties for, and then there were some that we wrote like, dude, last minute, and I will end this part of the conversation with saying this. I feel like, and people don't like this, but it's how I feel. That half the record is cooked and half of it's not. Half of it's crisp chocolate chip cookies, your favorite, and then the rest of it's cookie dough, not cooked. And those songs are probably like, I don't want to say I hate, but I do not enjoy Gypsy, Black and Blue Valentine. That one was written with Jack Ponte, who wrote with Alice Cooper and Bon Jovi. And Doro Pesh, and he wrote with a lot of people. He's passed on since, but he's from Toms River, New Jersey, Skid Row town. And me and Mike Watson, bassist, flew there to write that tune with him. We were there 2 days, I think. And we came back, and I'm like, I threw my arms up. I'm like, I'm not feeling it. I mean, yeah, it's a well-written tune, but it's not on my... I'm not itching to play that live or even put it on the record. And management and label was like, what are you talking about? We just spent all this money sending you guys out to write a song with the infamous Jack Ponte, and it's like, no, I don't like it. No offense to anyone. Jack especially stinks. Anyway, I lost that too. They made us put it on the record. We recorded it, but we did our best. And then, Bad Guy has some really cool moments, but it's just not Line 'Em Up. I'll tell you what, instead of dogging out all the songs on Hellacious, I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
I like Gimme No Lip. I like Angel and You, Sugar Leather in the Nail, Gunfighter,
Yeah.
Line 'Em Up, Best of Friends,
Those are all the songs I love.
Dude, those are all great songs. They're very well written. Respectfully, they're all really fun. You know, Line 'Em Up and Sugar Leather and the Nail, those are still in the set. Sometimes Angel and You, Give Me No Lip. Every show we ever do, that's in the set.
Yeah, that's a great song. Now, Now the cover of Feel Like Making Love, did the label want you to do that?
Well, the funny thing is it wasn't the label on that one. It was Roy Thomas Baker, the producer. You know, he produced Free and Bad Company and, you know, the cats that wrote that song.
Yeah.
And me and Danny were just messing with it in rehearsal one day, and Roy walks in because he came to Texas for some pre-production rehearsals and to meet the band and everything. And he walks in and we're playing, baby, you know, we just start grooving, you know, we're just messing around. And he goes, that's going on the record. And I'm like, we laughed. We're like, what? We're just fucking around, you know? And he said, yeah, that's on the record. We got to do that. That's great. You guys sound great doing that. And I don't remember what key we were playing it in. Probably the original key when Roy walked in, when Roy was insistent that, you know, yeah, you guys got to do that. That's great. And I don't think that he had points on the Bad Company version, and that we were even thinking like, oh, let's start playing one of, you know, a song that Roy produced when he walks in the door. That wasn't planned. It was accidental.
Yeah.
And we were guilty that, you know, it was kind of our fault that happened, because if it wouldn't have been messing around with it, he wouldn't have been so excited that, you know, to put it on the record. Then because of where we were in time on the calendar and the clock and this supposed window of opportunity the label was kept talking about, we were like, okay. And he said, we'll move it up to a higher key, so when you get to the chorus, Jason's singing in his, you know, he's using that voice that everyone loves him to use. And he made it, that was a good point, I thought.
Yeah.
And that also made the song different.
Yeah, I always liked that part in the song, like where you really get into it. Like
yeah.
And that was one when the album came out that we actually really loved. We listened to it a lot. I don't know if I listened to it as much as I did back then. And a funny story about this, I actually have this on vinyl, but...
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
But, so I went online and I was looking up Dangerous Toys Hellacious Acres on vinyl. So this thing comes up and it says Australia and it's for sale. And I'm like, okay. I was like, well, I'm going to buy it. So I bought it, and it's not a real pressing.
It's a bootleg, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you show me the back?
Yeah. See, there's no label, no copyright, nothing.
Yeah, that's a bootleg. Yeah.
And I put it on and I was a little skeptical. I'm like, and I'm sure, obviously it's not from the master. It sounds okay, but you know, it doesn't have.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody, I think just yesterday, actually, that brought up, it was day before yesterday, actually. I was talking to a radio DJ acquaintance of mine down a couple hours away from here on a Zoom call, and he found, it could be the same guy, I don't know, but he found a site that was selling all kinds of records that he was missing in his collection. And one of them was the first Toys album. And he told the story that, man, I got it and I realized the band didn't get a cent of this.
Yeah.
This is a pirate. This is a pirated.
Yes. And I apologize for that.
No. I get it. If you're a fan of something and you go down rabbit holes and you know, hey man, I get it. You get excited and you go, oh my God, I need that. I used to have that. And my friend stole it from me, or bad roommates or whatever. I lost all that in the fire and I got to have it again. And la, la, la. Yeah. I get it. And this guy was telling me this story and I'm like, hey, you don't have to. And then he ended with, and they're all bootlegs. And I said, oh, man, that's bad. And he goes, He goes, yeah, I wish there was a way that you could shut them down. I go, there's not.
Yeah.
If it comes across my radar and there's a contact the seller, that's a no-brainer. I can shut them. I can send them a cease and desist, whether it's going to, they can just delete my email and play dumb.
Yeah, that's true.
Because there's no police for that.
I mean, as a collector, you want it to be official. Like you want it to come off the real master.
100%.
Right?
Yeah, 100%. You want an original pressing or a second pressing.
That's
or
right.
a third if it did well or whatever. Right. Well, the funny thing is why Hellacious Acres is probably a very, very popular bootleg is because it never came out on vinyl in North America.
Yes.
Only in Europe.
I have seen it on there's a guy that sells records, like vintage records, 80s stuff, and it's expensive. Like it goes for big dollars. And I know he's had it. It's just whether or not I want to fork out the cash for it, right?
Yeah, right.
But I mean, I have the first one, of course. And the cool thing is there's actually a sticker on the back that says, beware of dangerous toys.
That's the hype sticker.
Yeah.
I always liked it that it had said, I don't know, 11 razor sharp tracks or something. It had the saw blade on it. Yeah, I thought that was very cool. Not everybody's record had a saw blade on it. When our record came out, you look at all the new releases lined up the walls in the record store. Not all the hype stickers had a razor, had like a saw blade on it,
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it is cool. I mean, I had 2 copies of it. I gave one to a buddy of mine because he didn't have it. And I was like, you know what? I got 2 copies of this. Here, have this. So
Sure. Sure. I actually have a real copy of Hellacious Acres, and I have a couple of like promo copies of the first album, and then I have a legit one. One of the pressings I think I had that was not a test pressing, but just a promo copy, had the hype sticker and everything, but it was made in Canada.
Oh.
Yeah.
Where's this one made?
Interesting, because it had some French.
Oh.
Some of the credits were in French.
Okay. Oh yeah, because there was pressing in Montreal, I believe. So
Correct.
This one's actually from California. This one's pressed in California, which is kind of cool.
Right. Yeah.
And you know what? Getting to Pissed. I mean, this was amazing when EMP did that.
Yeah.
Picture disc was cool.
Yeah, they got in trouble for that because
they did.
Yeah. Pissed and the artist formerly known as Dangerous Toys never came out on vinyl.
Right.
It was CD and cassette only because I call that the dark ages, right? Where all of a sudden there's not any vinyl being pushed and sold and no one cares. And, of course, vinyl never really died. It was just like, if you're not selling X amount of units, we're not going to press it on vinyl.
That's right. Yeah.
So you could buy Metallica, and Nirvana and Pearl Jam and White Zombie and 9 Inch Nail. You could buy all that on vinyl, but not anybody that was just like, if last couple of years they sold a couple 100,000 copies, they're not going to press it on vinyl. But anyway, so by 94 and 95, that's when the vinyl took a dive.
Right.
Unless, like I just said, if you weren't selling, platinum, you were not going to be pressed on vinyl. So my management team basically sold a perpetual deal for Pissed and the artist to Cleopatra Records. And Cleopatra has since done a really great job, actually, of some vinyl reissues of those records. Yeah, exactly.
I just got that.
It's great. It's great.
Yeah.
The CD version I have some qualms about, but that on vinyl, that one you held up is a great. On the inside of the gatefold, there's some crap artwork that is just AI bullshit. Oh. So I have some qualms even about the vinyl, but just the vinyl and what they've done with it is pretty badass. So when and that's a new, I'll say that's over the last 2-3 years, right? Of that. Okay. So if you think about just before 2 or 3 years or 4 years ago, maybe even and some change, EMP, I was kind of in bed with them and doing some things with them, and they said, let's do Pissed, and we'll do Artists right after it, and not realizing that the deal that was made years, back in like 98 or 99 with Cleopatra's been around a long time, so the deal was made it was a perpetuity deal, meaning they can do whatever they want with that material. And they did. And so when that EMP stuff came out, I got a call from Cleopatra, and they're like, dude, what are you doing?
Oh, no.
They spanked
really?
my hand. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
So they said, yeah, you got to take all your digital, you got to take that down. I said, all right. So, I got with EMP and they took it down, and it was no big deal. No one, not really any, because they didn't there was no threat or anything. They just said, hey, dude, what are you doing? They reminded me kindly that, hey, we own that little part of your catalog. And I was like, holy shit. Because I had given EMP it's like, let's go, man. It never came out on vinyl. Let's go. Let's do it. And this was before they had even pulled the trigger on vinyl, talking Cleopatra.
Yeah.
So they were mad because I beat them to it.
I mean, it looks amazing, though. That picture
they did a good job.
They did a great job.
Yeah, EMP knows what's up. I have to give Tom Hazard, who was part of that EMP label group, he put together all of the artwork and layouts for those EMP issues of Pissed. Like, he did all of that. He gets all the credit. I supplied him with as much, art and intel, and there was no masters. I don't think we had any real masters. So I think that he took digital stuff, and he had a buddy of his just sort of do, polish it up and pump up the volume. And luckily we were lucky enough to be able to get it to sound a little bigger just by using the digital audio files like that you find on a CD.
Huh.
But it really burned well. It burned well. When you listen to those EMP versions, it sounds great.
I think I've only listened to that one once because it was a picture disc. I haven't. Yeah. I just got the other copy 2 weeks ago. I haven't even opened it yet.
Far out.
Yeah. So, but
yeah, the Pissed is a sordid story, and so is the artist formerly known as. And what I was going to say, and not to throw Cleopatra under the bus, because I can complain and talk about my pitfalls and things that I don't like they've done, and I mean, I just admitted to taking part of my catalog that they in their right have been have perpetuity license, and went with the label and put it out, and they tapped me on the shoulder and go So I've already admitted that I was quick to be dumb on that, and oh shit,
that's all.
So now I know, and it's all good. But the CD versions of these Cleopatra, Pissed, and Artists for Cleopatra, as well as a lot of other sort of garage labels, as I'll just call them, independent labels, will do these tribute albums, and they'll send me, hey, here's a bag of money, sing this Def Leppard and this Whitesnake and this Guns N' Roses and this Crew song and this ZZ Top and this, Leonard Skinner, just sing all these cover songs. And this is throughout a period of, 25 years or more. And with all these different labels and such. Well, I've done quite a few for Cleopatra over the years. So for whatever reason, they thought it was a good idea that on the CD versions of Pissed and the artist formerly known as, and, to piggyback these great vinyl reissues, they did. On the CD versions of Pissed and the artist, they put all of the cover songs that it's just me and a bunch of bozo. I don't even know who's playing the music, but it's not Dangerous Toys. It's just my voice, and they sent me, I paid rent. I bought groceries, I
Yeah.
stayed working because of, these tribute albums. They gave me, hey, sing on the song, send us the tracks and we'll send you a check. And I'm like, hey, that sounds fun. Great. Well, Cleopatra, the ones that Cleopatra has rights to, they don't have anywhere else to put these songs. Hey, let's just put them on a Dangerous Toys album. It's the singer. So here's the clincher. Here's where it's like egg on their face, but it's also egg on ours too. Is there is an Aerosmith song. I can't remember what song it is. It might be like Last Child or Back in the Saddle. Anyway, don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
And I'm not even singing. Ron Keel is singing, and it's on a Dangerous Toys album. What the hell?
Oh my goodness. Wow.
You know why? It made its way into the bin and to be slid on the end of the pissed CD version is because I'm playing bass.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Paris Records, Tom Mathers, my buddy Tom Mathers, Paris Records.
Yeah.
I did the same for him. Hey, I'm doing this tribute album, doing that tribute. Yeah, I'll give you some money. Well, he paid me quite a bit of money to play bass on like 8 Aerosmith songs, and then he paid me again to sing on 2 or 3 of them. Well, Ron Keel's singing on one, and whoever's singing, it's a bunch of cock rock dudes singing Aerosmith songs. It's fun. It's great. Everybody makes a couple bucks, and it's all fine. So the story goes that Cleopatra needed a couple more songs for like an Aerosmith tribute. This is years ago. And they called Tom Paris, and everybody's cool, man. And hey, Tom, I'm Cleopatra. Hey, Tom, I'm making a Aerosmith tribute, and I need like 2 or 3 more songs. And didn't you do one a while back? And hey, can I put a few of your tunes on my tribute album, and I'll send you some catalog of whatever of Cleopatra bands, and you can just make your money selling Cleopatra. I'll send you some of our stock, and you can sell them however you want and make your money that way with licensing us a few of these Aerosmith songs you've got. Well, that's where he got the Ron Keel with me on bass. That's where he got whatever else that I might be singing on, and that's how that happened.
I don't know how I would feel about that if I had bought those.
As a fan, I would be like
As a
pissed
fan.
off.
Yeah, I would be.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I probably will never listen to these.
As an artist, I was really upset.
Yeah.
Because if I was, Mark or Scott or Paul or, Mike or any past member of Dangerous Toys, which there's only a couple more, Danny and Kevin, Tim, Tim didn't record anything with us. But the point is this. I would have been mad because, one, it's a licensed cover song from a third party.
Yeah.
It's not Dangerous Toys playing the song. Jason was just making some gas money, man.
Yeah.
And you
right.
think it's a good idea. You think that that's okay just because it's his voice to put on our record. I'm talking if I was Mark or Scott or, the Toys guys. Sans me, right?
Right.
If I was them, I would have gone to the label and just burned it down.
Well, see, for me as well, it's like, okay, an album has a sound. It's a continuous thing of all the songs that are on it. By adding songs that probably may not even fit, it kind of makes it a mismatch. You know what I mean? Like
I do. Bonus tracks, everybody likes to think, oh, well, this has bonus tracks. Well, for what we're talking about right now, those are not proper.
No.
Those are you're messing with my fandom. I mean, I'm a big fan, and you're going to do that. I think that they're trying to fix it, bless their hearts, and Cleopatra's done a really, really great job on sort of fixing that kind of a thing. I think it was kind of a loose cannon for a while, and I think that they figured some stuff out because they've done really well with the Demolition release, the new Demos album that's out now. They did a great job with that. They trusted they entrusted there it is. They entrusted us to be in charge, as they should, with the artwork, because like that greatest hits album they did a while back, and the live album they did a while back and all that stuff, that was not Dangerous Toys clown.
I was wondering
AI. That was some AI bullshit.
that clown doesn't look the same, and that actually bothered me, because when I looked at those, I was like, this doesn't look.
See, they're not fooling you, man.
No,
They're not. Anyone who's a real fan, they're not fooling anybody. And every once in a while, someone will lay those on the table and I'll have to sign them.
Oh,
And I just smile. Or sometimes whoever's bringing it up to hang out and, get us to sign all their stuff, they'll bring it up. It's like, yeah, I have this because I just love the band so much, and I know that you don't approve of this artwork, but would you please sign? You know what I mean? And then like, oh, well, at least you're being completely 100% honest and legit and letting me know that you're on the team and you're still supporting, because, the band does make a few pennies off of those sales.
well, I'm glad you brought that up, because I saw those and I was like, oh, did they change the clown? That was a question I had. I mean, I didn't put it in my notes, but when I looked at those, I was like, it's just not the same, right? And then you see this, and the clown's the way it should look.
100%. Yeah. So that should answer your question. So here's here's another way to sort of look at it. There are some people, and they're innocent. They're not doing anything wrong by having this, they're just guessing, like that's what we do. If we don't know, we're just going to gather. Wonder why they do. Oh, maybe it's because, like you're saying, did they change the clown? I really like the other guy, Well, some people think that now that they know it is an AI clown or a different clown or not approved by the band, they call those, even though they're legit releases, because Cleopatra owns the rights to that material, that part of our catalog, fans are calling those bootlegs. Well, they're not bootlegs.
Yeah.
They're not bootlegs. Then what's the deal with the artwork? Okay, well, now I'm telling you, they have an art department who's not contacting us to get any approval, because they don't have to. They can do whatever they want.
Oh.
They could put a donkey's butthole on that cover and sell it as a Dangerous Toys album. What's the, they could do whatever they can put cover songs with Ron Keel on it, with Jason on bass, and put it on a Dangerous Toys album. They can do whatever they want with anything they have. And that's just how it is. And it's contracted that way. So if their art department, air quotes, thinks it's okay to just tell Chat GPT to, hey, give me a scary clown, and they hit print, Dangerous Toys, scary clown, right? No, it's not just any scary clown. But if you tell a robot to give you a scary clown, it's not going to give you Beelzebub. It's going to give you some AI bullshit. And that's what happened.
Yeah, and like I said, that it kind of irked me a little bit, because
well, good. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad it made you uncomfortable as a fan, because it ain't right, and you knew it.
And I was just like, what's going on here? This is not the way I remember this, and I've been looking at this thing for 30 years.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Well, Tommy Pons, the artist, my buddy from down in San Antonio that, helped me create this character, and he deserves a shit ton of credit. And I knew that he could do it. I don't know if you've heard the story. Way early on, when management and I were on a phone call, well, what is a Dangerous Toy? What are you going to do for an album cover? What is your logo going to be? We got to start talking about this right now,
Yeah.
Yeah, and not tomorrow, right now. And I'm like, oh, man, brainstorm, right? So the concept was, okay, well, what about like a scary kind of clown, Jack in the Box kind of thing? And let's tie it into we were in the middle of writing Scared, and I didn't even come up in the conversation that, hey, man, I think I like being scared. Well, what's happening in your psyche when you turn the crank on a Jack-in-the-Box? You know what's going to happen, and you shove it back in, close the lid, and you do it again. Scared.
Yeah.
I think I like. Why do I like this? This is fun. I like. Oh my God. Oh wow. And then you start to become like, thrilled by the danger and so it fit in with what we were about immediately without even putting those two places in your mind together, which is really weird and sort of kismet, The story continues, same conversation. Well, I'll have, my management was saying, I'll have these guys that I totally trust, are the best in the business out here in California, send you some faxes, because it's 1988.
Yeah.
I'll send you some faxes of these sketches. I'm like, great, can't wait. Went down the road to the print store, and there's faxes they sent with my name on them, and they're these cute little bubbly smiley with tiny little out of proportion cowboy hats on their head like clowns have at the circus, and they're real maniacal looking, but they look like party balloons, and that's what they remind it's like, wait, what, and I same day I'm like, called manager, I'm like, oh no, please no. And he's like, well, these are the best guys in the business. Can you do better? I'm like, 1,000,000 times better. Oh, I don't believe you. La la. I mean, we don't know each other. We had just started working together, right?
Yeah.
I barely knew the toys guys, man.
Right. Yeah. Wow.
A month, 4 months, 6 months.
That's crazy.
You see my point? It was really weird in my head. It's like, oh my God, did I just mess up? Obviously, I made the right decisions. But anyway, the point, I told him, and I kind of flexed a little bit, and I said, I guarantee you I can blow this away. I know a guy in San Antonio who draws, scary stuff like this all the time, comic book kind of artist kind of shit. He can blow this stuff out of the water. Just tell your guys to just stop. Okay, you got 24 hours. I hung up the phone, called Tommy Pons. Hey, man, I got this thing. I need an album cover. I need a logo. I need some kind of, image. And they sent, I didn't even send him the cute little clown faces that they had faxed me. And I said, here's what I need. I need teeth and blah. And he goes, all right, gotcha. And he faxed me a sketch of what would have been the earliest version of Billsy Bub with a purple and black, like a purple and black sort of target,
Yeah.
And with a scare, I don't have it. I wish I had it around here, but you can see it. It's actually inside. If you have the Vitamins and Crash Helmets Tour live CD, if you take the CD out, what's underneath the CD in that is what he sent me.
Oh, I remember that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy looking. It's the clown, but it's like even nuttier looking than what everybody knows to be the first album cover. So he faxed that to me, and I'm like, perfect. Now I need you to fax this to this number. And I waited for the phone to ring. Wow. You're right, dude. We're going with your guy. We're right.
That
awesome. was the first I told you so.
That's crazy. And
anyway, it made a good relationship really fast. Like Tim, our manager, totally trusted me after that. He knew that my vision was right.
I mean, when you talk about this, and speaking of your vision, when you relate to Scared, as you said, hey man, I like being scared. I mean, I always associated that with, because I knew that Alice Cooper thing, but I mean, the album cover went along with that as well. And, you know what I mean? But but like the whole Alice Cooper thing. And the first time I heard Alice Cooper or saw Alice Cooper, that was scary as well. Right. So how it all fit together.
He was mixed media before that was even like I think early glam rock and shock rock and, what Queen and David Bowie and of course Kiss, right? And just the whole fantastical I mean, dude, it was like a Disney nightmare meets rock and roll. And it was kind of punk. It was still kind of punk rock too. It was still, punk is an attitude, and it's an attitude before it's a genre of music. And it's a punk rock to me is still just rock and roll. The Sex Pistols, never mind the Bullocks, that's a rock and roll record. Listen to it. Those riffs are like that's rock and roll. That's like glam rock. That sounds like Slade.
That's right. Hence why so many bands have redone the Sex Pistols.
Right.
Didn't matter what genre of rock and roll they played.
That's right.
It translated over, right?
That's right. That's right. That was the first, you could say that was the very first sort of crossover between punk and metal, or hard rock and punk, or whatever. You can start all the way. Blues just got louder and faster, and that's what rock and roll is.
That's right.
So the fact that, I was listening to a ton of Alice Cooper during the time that I was working on the lyrics to Scared. Scared was one of the last songs we wrote for the record. We had Teasing an Outlaw and Trouble. We had Sportin' a Woody. We even had Bones in the Gutter. But we didn't have Tin Boots, and we didn't have Scared. Those were the last two songs that we had that we really had to work on. Like the last weeks we were still in Texas before we went to California to record. And so heavy on the Alice, and I was just trying to come up with, this little storyline, and I was kind of faking it till I made it. And I had been listening to a bunch of Alice, and I was leaning in towards, Dead Babies and Welcome to My Nightmare and Sick Things and all of the crazy Alice,
Ballad of
Dwight Fry and the Straight Jacket vibe, and the whole, and that was how Scared was kind of created. I mean, who is the man in the white vest? That vest, that's a straight jacket.
Right.
I'm talking about a straight jacket when I say the white vest. I don't mean elected and you're wearing cummerbund and top hat. That's not the Alice I'm talking about. But or is it? See what I mean? I'm tying it all in. Who's the man in the white vest? That I'm really trying to point at the straight jacket and not the white tuxedo he's wearing during Elected, which I love too, right? So the vaudeville, the horror, the funny, the humor, the contrast between, it's a clown, yay, well, I'm a clown, yay, let's, wonk, 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 let's big fun, and la, 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 I'm going to eat you now.
Yeah.
Is really this great oxymoron. The innuendos and everything really work well together when you put all of that stuff with early glam rock and heavy metal and all of the drama that is in like power metal and speed metal and the whole, satanic panic of the 80s and the whole night. I love all of that. It's lore of what it is that we're trying to do. And I could talk about it for years because I'm fascinated with how complete scenes in certain markets, the Bay Area with all the thrash metal and the New York hardcore scene and the whatever. Everybody had their own thing, and that just means there's hive minds, and these people are really got it. This third eye's wide open, and they're in love with all of the same things that we are, and that you are, and they are, and it's beautiful. So to be an artist and create this, and for lyric writing to be rather brand new to me was an awesome time to be able to tie in all of the things that I was in love with. And, I'm not a big comic book guy, but I was the biggest Kiss fan on my street. That it all ties in somehow. Yeah.
Yeah. And I agree with you. And I think in some ways in 1989 was kind of around the time that it's quite possible. It was so long ago. But that's when I kind of dove more into Alice Cooper, and I think that song kind of put me deeper into the Alice Cooper thing as well, and that Trash had come out as well, and that was a big album.
Yeah.
But it all correlated. It was all,
Yeah.
everything was coming together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me as a music fan.
Yeah, and Alice's music had changed into like kind of what was happening in hard rock. You know, he was writing with guys who wrote with Bon Jovi. He was you know what I mean? And he was still cool with the Seattle scene when all that stuff started happening. He was friends with all of them too, and they
That's right.
loved Alice. You know, everybody loves Alice just like everybody loves AC/DC. So it's all
true.
kindred. Yeah, and Kiss too, you know. And then, you know, as far as like my personal preference, the Alice I love is anything before Trash or even Raise Your Fist and Yell. Anything before that, probably up to probably early, you know, maybe 82. Anything out, like the weirder Alice is, the more I'm into it. Like Poison, that's not
a
my
Desmond
Alice.
Child type of thing.
It's not my Alice. Yeah, that's just not my Alice. And don't be mad at me. It's not my fault. It's demographic, and that's just preference.
I mean, they were smart when he came back doing that whole Friday the 13th thing for Constrictor, right? And
yes.
And I mean, the song was, I mean, it's mostly what, like synthesizer, if I remember, for He's Back, the man behind the mask. But it was cool.
Yeah.
And then they used Teenage Frankenstein.
The drums might not even be real.
Right.
It might have been programmed drums.
Yeah, but it was a good way for him to kind of come back. And then I didn't mind Raise Your Fist and Yell. I didn't think it was as good as Constrictor, but like you talk about those other albums like Zipper Catches Skin and Dada, and there's a couple more.
I love Dada.
Yeah.
Love that weird sort of new wave kind of like he was figuring some stuff out. I think it was therapeutic for him to just, you know, have half the record sound like Devo or something.
What album was Clones on? Was that on that one?
No, that's on Flush to Fashion.
Oh, right.
I'm pretty sure that's on Flush to Fashion.
Yeah, because there's like
that would have been 1980. 1980.
Wow, that's cool. I did, and you know what? We're talking about this, you know, like this horror type of thing, and I wanted to ask you about Shocker. About Demon Bell. And
before we move on to, I know we're still kind of talking about Alice, but another record I love is Special Forces.
Oh yeah, that's it. That's in there too. That's right.
That's a really great, fun record, man.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever. I think I have it. I have a lot of music, so I might have to pull that up.
It sounds great. Some of these records we're talking about were probably, he might have still been working with Bob Ezrin.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm not 100% sure because I mean he'd worked a lot with Bob Ezrin, and I mean From the Inside. Did Bob Ezrin do that one? I think he did that one too, right?
I think he did, and he had Davy Johnstone from Elton John's band and Bernie Taupin writing lyrics with him as well.
Right.
The Elton connection. And if I start talking about Elton, I will not stop talking about Elton. So that's a whole other show.
I wouldn't,
because I worship. I literally worship. I worship Elton John. Yeah,
that's awesome, man.
Yeah,
that's so cool. Now, okay, so we were going to talk about Shocker.
Yeah,
and you know what? That movie is interesting, and that whole soundtrack is interesting because the song you guys did on it was Demon Bell. Was it Bell? Demon Bell?
Correct.
Yeah. The Ballad of Horace Pinker. Now, did they add that after the fact to the song, or was it written that way?
Well, I wrote those lyrics with Desmond Child on like a 3-hour phone call in the analog days where there was no cell phones. So imagine the phone bill.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. It was
3 hours. That would have been crazy.
$300 phone call or something.
Wow.
And I mean, I didn't have to pay it. I mean, they had, the label had to, they were recouping. They charged me for it later on,
right, of course.
I had to sell some records to pay to, Anyway, that's a whole other book too. But anyway, yeah. I brought some stuff to the table lyrically, and Desmond had some ideas, and his idea was that I had Demon Bell, and he said, oh, well, let's make it be loosely about the main character, Horace Pinker. And I'd heard that character's name, obviously, because we were talking about what was going on with the movie. And we didn't have a script or anything, you know, but Desmond was involved. He was like one of the executive music producers for that whole thing, and he was involved with the music for the movie.
Yeah.
And he's a super talent. I mean, the guy was just magical with words and scenarios and creating color with words. And I was like, wow, okay, cool. And then I would say something and he would add to it. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's even better. So he's really good working with, and we've still never met. So we never met. So,
wow.
Yeah, it's 100 years ago we're talking about. Anyway, so long story short, it's collaborative on the lyric. He added I called it Demon Bell. He said, parentheses, the Ballad of Horace Pinker, which is lending itself to Alice Cooper, the Ballad of Dwight Fry, which opens this whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so ironically, time out for a second. I have this band that I've been in called Ignitor. And Ignitor is this sort of, it sounds like a really pissed off Iron Maiden. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
And Ignitor wrote a song for Victor Crowley, a movie called Victor Crowley, which is of the Hatchet series, you know, the movie Hatchet, the movie.
Right.
It's a horror movie series called, it's Hatchet 1, Hatchet 2, Hatchet 3, la la la. And Adam Green, the writer director of Hatchet, the whole franchise, is a friend of mine. He called me one day. He goes, hey man, I want you to write a song for the movie, and I want it to be it's going to be the credits at the end of the movie. It's going to, and I'm like, holy crap, that's awesome. And I start writing the song, and I called the song Hatchet. And then I told him about it, and we kept going back and forth, and he said, how about Hatchet, parentheses, the Ballad of Victor Crowley? So we did that.
That's cool.
And the song is great. And I think you can find it on YouTube.
I'm going to look that up.
And it's in the credits of the movie Victor Crowley.
That's so cool.
Hatchet 7 or what it would technically be.
Yeah.
But if you type in Victor Crowley, Hatchet, the Ballad of Victor Crowley, an Igniter should come up. We made a video for it and everything. But anyway, so yeah, that talk about keeps going.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Desmond Child composition, the music was a song that's on... It's on a couple of different things. It's a song called Dangerous Toys. Like the title of the song is Dangerous
which is
Toys.
on one of those live albums too.
Yeah,
right?
It's on Vitamins and Crash Helmets.
Yeah.
And it's an early song that didn't make the cut when we were making the first record. It was a leftover, right? Mm-hmm. So we had that, and we liked that riff. I mean, it's a great riff, and it's heavy and it's fun and it's slamming, and we wanted to do something with it, and we took the lyrics that I finished up with Desmond Child, and we went in to a place not far from where I am now in San Marcos, Texas, at a studio called the Fire Station. It's actually where a Psycho Cafe, Bang Tango, was recorded.
Oh, really?
The Fire Station in San Marcos,
okay.
Yeah. And everyone's recorded there. Stevie Ray Vaughan recorded. Everyone, it's been there forever. Anyway, so we went in there with Max Norman. He flew down, and we had already made the record, and our record was about to come out. And hey, Max, how's it good to see you again? And we spent 2 days, I think, and we recorded, the Shocker sound, Demon Bell.
Yeah.
And it came out great, and the movie came out, and yay, and here we are still talking about it. But yeah, it was the song Dangerous Toys. And I was listening to some old rehearsal tapes the other day, and like one song spawns like 5 songs if it doesn't get used and you still have some love for it.
Yeah.
We have like old songs. I'm going, wait, that's the lyrics from Gunfighter.
Oh, really? That's cool.
It's pretty weird. Yeah, I'm hearing a song and I'm going, whoa, that's the first verse of Gunfighter. And I just lifted the lyric, you know.
That's cool. I find that movie and that soundtrack interesting because Wes Craven was kind of trying to recreate another villain, right? Like kind of like Freddy Krueger type of thing. And unfortunately, it didn't go as they had hoped. But I mean, us still talking about the soundtrack, it's interesting because there's a song by Bonfire on there that was a Kiss song that was left off of Crazy Nights that people have never heard. And then you've got like this super group, the Dudes of Wrath, with like Tommy Lee, Vivian Campbell, Rudy Sarzo, and the best name in rock ever, Guy Man Dude, which was, I tried to look him up yesterday to see if he's still around. But
yeah, Guy Man Dude played around Hollywood and LA all the time when we were out there recording, I think, the first and the second record. He was on the circuit out there. I've never seen him play or his band play. I don't know if it's one guy or if it's a band. I just don't.
Yeah, no, and I
just don't know.
I remember him. I think he did a couple other guest appearances on people's albums as well. And then of course
he was around.
Yeah, he was kind of had his popularity for a bit. And then of course Megadeth does No More Mr. Nice Guy as I think the one and only time they played as a 3-piece too, which was kind of cool. And so the soundtrack is it's got this kind of little bit of legacy of the era to it.
Yeah, it does. It kind of it's an odd dessert, right?
Right.
And I feel like it's one of these, and I'm not going to be the one to say it in the room, but I feel like some folks, especially if they're fans of the people on that soundtrack, or just the music on the soundtrack, is another way to say this, kind of the same thing. Oh, I have to have this. I love Dave Mustaine. See, there's that guy. Yeah. And then there's the guy, I'm a big Toys fan. That's a song. That's right. It's not on their first album. I got to have it, whatever it is. Oh, I'm the biggest Kiss nerd in the world. I have to have it.
That's right.
Same part of your brain. Someone somewhere can say, wow, the soundtrack is better than the movie. I wasn't going to say that. I wasn't going to say that. But you understand why someone may or may not say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's kind of strong for a movie soundtrack. It's kind of strong.
Yeah, it totally was. Yeah. I think that, they were maybe trying to sell, it was a good way to sell the movie as well with all those artists. And, I kind of attribute it to, you remember Last Action Hero with Arnold Schwarzenegger? That soundtrack, you had AC/DC on it doing Big Gun.
Yes.
And Tesla was on it. And then Megadeth was on that as well. It was in that era, there was a lot of times these soundtracks were bigger than the actual movie sometimes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you had you wanted them.
Yeah. From my, weekly record haul of like early 80s record shopping, Yeah. I would buy these like underground metal compilations, and they would have Angel Witch and Venom and Diamond Head and Motorhead and Praying Mantis and, stuff like that. And I had sometimes, maybe I didn't have a full record by one of these bands, or I did, and that'd be the reason I would buy it, because the song that was on it wasn't on the record that I had at home.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I love Venom. I'm going to buy this because I don't have this song,
Yeah.
And so I have a bunch of these old school underground heavy metal compilation records, and the soundtrack records of the 90s took me back to that a little bit. It took me back a decade and was like, oh, well, this makes sense to me because I have all these weird sort of one-off. The first time I heard Creeping Death by Metallica was on one of these compilations that had Hellstar and Tyson Dog and all these Brit and German hard rock and metal band. Metallica Creeping Death on is the first time I had ever heard it.
That's cool.
And yeah, and Ride the Lightning wasn't even out yet. See my point?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I have to have this, And the cover was sick too. It was like a haunted house, and there was this big demon standing over it that was, bigger than the house. It's so great. I wish I had that one. That's one of the ones I still wish I had. But I still do have a bunch of those kind of comp records. Anyway, that's what, the Last Action Hero soundtrack is like. That's what Shocker is like.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Bill
stuff
and Ted's
out there.
Bogus Journey, and
100%.
like there was a whole pile of them.
Yeah.
I have one of vinyl I've had forever, and we used to have a department store in Canada called Woolco.
I'm sorry, No Brainer is the heavy metal movie soundtrack.
That's right. With
That's
Sammy
a
Hagar.
no-brainer.
That
right
is
there.
a no-brainer.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's got it's got Black Sabbath on it.
That's
It's
right.
got Devo on it. It's got everybody
It's
on
amazing.
it. It's so good. Yeah.
That's so cool. But we used to have this store called Woolco. Walmart ended up buying them out, so now it's all Walmart.
Yeah,
here.
we had Woolcos down here too.
Did you?
Yeah.
So, anyways, Quality Records put out this thing called White Hot, and that was the first time I ever heard "Don't Stop Running" by Y&T, and thought, "Wow, man, this is like the coolest, like cool guitar riff." And you know what I mean? Like, and I think Autograph might have been on it, and there was Motorhead on it, and a band called Fist, I think, was on that as well.
Yeah.
So I totally relate to what you're saying. It was those old, like these compilations, and sometimes they were cheaper as well. So you'd want to bring that home. It's like, oh, I bought music. I have something to listen to. So it was great.
Yeah. Licensing, whoever was putting that out got some kind of permission or licensing,
right.
For one song. And if you do that 10, 12 times, you've got a record you can sell for cheap, and there's little overhead. So
it's crazy. I want to ask about Operation Rock and Roll. Yesterday I was getting ready for an interview. I went on YouTube and I found this whole documentary on the tour with all the bands talking, and it was really cool to see. And I'm just curious about that bill when that was proposed to you guys, because was it not every artist on that bill was kind of affiliated with CBS and in some way or another?
No, they were. It was so it was Sony, right? Sony had bought CBS.
Right.
In 89, and then that merger wasn't really public knowledge until 90, I think. But, an original pressing of the first Toys record or whatever, it has the red label on the record, and it says
CBS.
It says CBS on it. Well, the fine print says Sony, right? Or it says Columbia, and the fine print says CBS, right? Well, and then less than a year later, the record's selling, and the records that people would buy, and this is an interesting sort of rock nerd thing. I wonder which version I have, and people are going to go take out what they think is the first pressing, and it's going to say Sony. If it says Sony, it's not the very, very first pressing. It's probably a second or third or fourth maybe, but the point is the same. So Columbia and Epic are under the umbrella of Sony, as to where Columbia and Epic used to be under the umbrella of CBS. So Sony just knocked out CBS and took over Columbia Records and Epic Records. And Alice was on Epic, and Priest was on Columbia, and we were on Columbia, and Metal Church was on Epic, and Motorhead, I think, was on Epic.
Yeah.
A subsidiary of it somehow. Right?
One of them was WTG too, wasn't that one of the affiliates of that label as well?
Yeah. I think that you're right. I think
Bonham was on that label, if I remember.
Yeah,
correctly.
I think that you're right. Yeah. So that's pretty much. I mean, they called us, and we didn't care who was sponsoring it. We just knew that we were excited because we were going on tour with all of our favorite bands.
Yeah,
that's all we cared about. But yeah, it was some people say it was a last-ditch effort for Sony to put a tour together so that these bands could go out and just sell off as many units as they could before they let everybody go, or before their focus changes on the new crop of the new sound that's coming in from Seattle.
Yeah.
And that's just a way to say it. I don't, whether that's the truth or how it was or what, I'm just telling you, someone's going to say and take credit for and say, oh, that era sucked and that was terrible and those bands were bad, that tour didn't sell and they canceled. That tour maybe canceled 4 shows.
That was
out of like 25 shows or something.
I seem to remember I didn't go to the Toronto show, which I believe was the last show of the tour, and that was where Rob had his hit his head. And
I saw it live. I saw that before my very eyes. Him hit the overhang coming out.
Yeah, I was just reading about it. I'm just reading his book right now, and I'm loving it, but. It was just, for some reason, I didn't go, and I would have loved to go, because I think that was at the CNE Grandstand too, I believe. I think it was an outdoor event. It was summertime.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, I wish I had gone. I don't think I had the funds. I was still I a teenager then too, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, he mentions that. Rob mentions it in his book.
Yeah, it was
that gig. Yeah.
But I think back on it now and reading, the 5 bands. That's quite the lineup. And
yeah, it's out of control. It's like it's a 91 summer blockbuster kind of a thing, and just even seeing that on a poster. I've got the tour poster hanging up on my wall over here.
That's
and
cool.
it's pretty rad. Yeah.
Yeah, and what would that cost today? You know what I mean? In relation to the tickets were probably $30, $40.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, you couldn't do it like that today. Tickets to go see 3 bands, Alice and Priest just did a tour together.
Right.
And my friends, my buddy Bobby, who plays bass in Corrosion of Conformity, they did a few weeks of that tour as support. Yeah. It was crazy because it was like, damn, there's not even like once Corrosion's done, it's like it's Judas Priest and Alice Cooper. It's like, wow, somebody's not worthy of it's 2 headliners back to back, and the thing is they're friendly, they know each other. They're Alice and Rob, I think, have houses. They're next door neighbors in Phoenix or something. That's crazy, So yeah, that sounds like fun for neighbors to go tour together. And anyway, amazing. But anyway, I had a comped ticket, and I can't imagine. It's probably $100 ticket.
Yeah,
easy. Yeah,
yeah. I tell younger people. I said, I tell my kids, I was like, we used to go see bands, like 3 bands for like $25 or $30. And, you were there the whole day, and, and you were getting all this great music. And today, it's such a different demographic, right? Of how tickets work. And, we used to.
Shirts were probably $20 back then.
That's right. And you used to wait in line for a concert ticket. Like you had to go to the store and wait in line.
That's part of the ritual that I talk about. When you're buying the record on the release day, you're camped out for a concert ticket for a record of your favorite band before the store opens. You're camped out, and it's a ritual, and that's what's missing today, because now people just press a button on their phone.
I know. Those were the best, though. Like, I remember the Motley '94 album coming out and going to the store, because I couldn't wait for it to come out, and waiting in line for the doors to open for that album. That's not the only one. Metallica '91 as well. I think it was just, it was a whole, the music meant so much. It wasn't right at your disposal, right?
Well, it's just saturated, and you blame it on progress, and now we have driverless cars.
Yeah, I know.
That pass your destination. It's like, well, Hey, pull over and I'll get out. You can't tell someone to pull over and it's right here. You're missing it. You're driving by. Oh, it's a robot. There's no one in the driver's seat.
Yeah, that's crazy. Now,
So
were all 4 albums done on 2-inch tape? Were they all analog?
wow, that's a great question. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes, but I have to probably pedal around the room for a second and say this, that I think that the masters for Pissed and the masters for the artist formerly known as were probably recorded over by the label because the label owned the tapes. So once they got probably a 1/2-inch reel or a 3/4 or whatever it was master with everything done, that's what they ripped off of. That's what they would duplicate from, right?
Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember having to go buy those albums.
Yeah.
And they were hard to find. You had to go downtown Toronto to the HMV store, and you could go up the escalator. Right in front of you was a heavy metal section, and that's where I found Pissed. And
Wow.
I also told Paul this. It was funny. There was a little card inside of Pissed, with a stamp. You could put a stamp on it and mail it back or whatever it was.
Yeah, DMZ Dose Records.
That's
Yeah.
right. And
Yeah.
there was a hotline number on it. And
Wow.
I
Yeah.
was a young kid, and I phoned that line, and I said something stupid like, you know what? Thank you so much for releasing this Dangerous Toys. Like, it was the stupidest thing ever, but I still vividly remember that.
That's awesome. Well, you were just excited about it, and you were a heavy metal nerd, and I love that. I love you for that.
Yeah,
That's the best.
It was. I mean, it was amazing just going there and finding it, because
Yeah.
I mean, here's Dangerous Toys. You guys, the first 2 albums are on big labels, and then all of a sudden it's on this smaller label, but
Yeah.
was just.
I think the furthest that we got to you on that tour was Burlington, Vermont.
Wow, it's pretty far from here.
That's
a little bit of a
there
drive.
was. How far is that from where you are?
From Toronto. Geez, I mean, probably
Far, huh?
8 or 9 hours driving.
Yeah, that's far. Yeah, there was some Canadian kids there that had come down from Canada,
That's awesome.
but they were closer to the border.
Wow,
So
that's crazy.
It's a few hours. They drove
Yeah.
a few hours.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't much of a road tripper then, but if it was now,
Yeah.
I would be there. You know what I mean? It was.
Yeah. Yeah, we got up that way, and it's beautiful up there. And back in the day, we went to New England and just up around those, the Northeast, and it is incredible up there, just visually. And I don't know if I could become a snowman, but I'll tell you, it was just, I had a great experience. And on the very first tour, we didn't even get into Canada, and so the only time that we ever got into Canada would have been Operation Rock and Roll, which we spoke of.
Yeah, and that's crazy.
And the first tour we had a couple of shows booked up around there. We were gonna play this club called Rock and Roll Heaven, and And I was looking forward to that because I was somewhat familiar with that through the fanzines.
Yeah, it was kind of the
tape trading, and it was a popular thing for bands in New York, and I know Metallica supported Venom at some East Coast shows, and they went up there and they played Rock and Roll Heaven, I'm almost positive. But anyway, so it was legend in my mind, and I was really bummed, and the reason we couldn't get across the border, like we were sitting in customs, and they went all up and down all over our bus, and what it was is one of my guitar players at the time, Danny, had a prior arrest, and it was for what I call petty theft, but I guess to them it was, and he thought it had been expunged from his record, and he was just surprised as everybody else. And we made jokes for a little while. He stole a boat when he was a kid. Him and some buddies just got some beer and took someone's boat out onto the lake. And
like kids.
He said it was Yeah, kid stuff. Totally stupid. Just they knew it was stupid and they did it, and but it was on his record, and they didn't like that for some reason. It's like, well, this is a good enough excuse for us to not let this Texas hard rock band come and bring trouble into our country.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
I didn't know that.
Well, not a lot of people did. It's not, because it was pre-internet, and then by the time the internet and social medias and things like that, the things we have today, it wasn't even talked about after that. It just, well, sorry, we had to pull out of our Canadian shows, and it might have gotten leaked through maybe a couple of magazine interviews or radio interviews or something, but I don't know if the real word got out as to why they wouldn't let us cross the border.
Wow.
So, but yeah, so the only time we've played Canada was in '91. So there's that. But I love it up there. And then we came home from the Piss tour, and eventually, I mean, that was a long tour, the Piss tour, and did a lot of dates. We didn't go to Europe or anything. But when we got home, we started writing immediately. And then that turned out to be the artist formerly known as Dangerous Toys.
Yeah, I just got that on vinyl too. I didn't have it in that stack, but I just got that on vinyl and put it on. I hadn't listened to it in years.
Yeah, and let's, after not listening to it in years, how do you feel about it now that you're an elder statesman?
I thought it was cool. I thought it was like, this is really cool. This is different. I don't think I grasped it at the time, to be honest. I was just kind of like, this is really different. But listening to it all those years later, and especially side one, I really loved. I was like, there's like this, there's an edge to it, and it's heavy, and it was cool.
But it's also lighter, too. I mean, the heaviest songs that this band has ever written, maybe, okay, arguably, that's fair, right? Just to put a wedge in there and make sure people have an out, right? Some of the heaviest, like, more metal moments by the band Dangerous Toys, but there's also moments where we're lighter and softer on the record as well. So we really stretched out, and we really kind of said fuck it and just had our freedoms. And whatever was happening. Sure, there was some trend following. Sure, was there, probably someone said, wow, this sounds like Smashing Pumpkins, or whatever, and that's, I'll own up to that, whatever feeling that they get. But the trends of the day on the radio or whatever, not so much fashion maybe, but the trends on the radio had crept in maybe some. I mean, we were still listening to Aerosmith and ZZ Top, but we were writing these songs that were a little darker lyrically. For certain, when I think about lightheartedness, the artist formerly known as doesn't really have that. And I think that I would like to think that might have been the main reason as to why it was more of a shock than it was that it just didn't have any Schubert and Mamada and crotch-grabbing silliness. That it was more of a grown-up record, maybe. It was. I mean, at that time, like I said, it was different, and it was just kind of. It's like, I'm not sure if I dig this as much as the other stuff, because for me, it was so different, right? But totally fair.
Hence the title, right?
Well, that was the funniest thing about the record. It wasn't so much the material was tongue in cheek as before, but that album cover, and if I don't say so myself, is a brilliant tongue-in-cheek album cover with the Prince theme, the clown and the love sexy, scenario. And we love Prince, so it was perfect to us. And I even saw like some reactionary things getting written up in some music rags, music papers, I had a copy of it a while back. I had a roommate for a while, and he alerted me to this and sent it to me, and it was a clip handwritten. Someone had written in I don't know. It could have been even something like Discogs or something. I have no idea.
Right.
And it said something like, "Hey, I was in a record store and I saw this, and I remember they spelled the word record like record, like REKKID. I was in this record store, you know what I mean? And it could have been an East Coaster. I don't know, because they kind of talk like that, whatever. And I thought it was cool that they had a lingo going, and they weren't throwing shade on it or anything. They were commenting on the art. It caught my eye because I'm a Prince fan, and this is a love sexy,
cool.
take on it. Yeah, it was just probably someone who's not even a rock fan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a metal fan, if you will. And I thought that was really great that someone saw that and saw the cover and respected the cover and went, I know what that's from. I know, I get that. And so that cover was kind of for everyone who, and that was a weird time for Prince too, because he was contractually obligated to make another Prince record for somebody else. And he had his different, his own label going. Yeah. And so he got out of his contract by changing his name to a symbol. So that really, and I hearken back to, we're sitting in the studio and we still had same longtime management at the time. And, we had our own people scratching their heads, they're in the studio listening to us cut these songs. And we walk in from the drum cutting room and I played bass on the record too. That, so it's different sounding because we don't have Danny Aaron. We don't have Mike Watson, and Jason's playing bass, and I don't play bass like Mike Watson. Yeah. We both play with a pick. That's it. That's the only, but I am not Mike Watson and he is not me. And very few people, I still don't realize that I started out as a bass player pre-Watchtower. I never let it down, but it wasn't something I was known for because the public never saw me with my bass after 1982.
That's crazy. That's nuts.
I was a kid bass player, and then all of a sudden everybody wanted me to be the singer, and that's fine. Yeah. That's fine as long as I can be creative, and I just wanted to play rock and roll. So I'll do whatever. You guys are cool. You want me to sing? And that would have been Watchtower. I learned everything about singing that to this day that I know from being in Watchtower.
That's amazing.
But honestly, yeah, we're sitting around and I think it was just something as simple as, hey, what do you think? And Tim, our manager, was like, man, I'm just not used to hearing you guys sound like this. And it really kind of opened up the spirit to having, the conversation, do we change the name of the band? And we all agreed that would have been a mistake. Yeah. To not be, to just like change our whole route, to just like, that would have been terrible. It would have let's just put the egg right on our face so no one has to throw it. Let's just put it on our, let's draw a target on our forehead, So we took the pills and we drank the Kool-Aid and we went on tour like that. And we still played Bones in the Gutter and Teasin' Pleasin' and Gimme No Lip and Line 'Em Up. And, there's videos of us with that 4-piece lineup, full show concerts. And you know what? If I don't say so myself,
it was good.
It's pretty cool.
Was it hard for you to sing some of that stuff, having to play bass as well?
I had to figure it out. I had to get back on the horse because it was, and we had, once we started rehearsing, it started to just, become more natural. And, when I got home from that tour, I was a better player than I had been in years, Singing, playing at the same time, I was not that familiar with. I did, like I said, I did it when I was, you know, the last time I had done it prior to that was probably when I was 18.
Wow.
And here I am, you know, 31 doing it. And then by 98, I was fronting a band called Godzilla Motor Company.
I've heard of this. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, it's all the record during COVID. We finally released the buried record. Like Bobby, the guitar player, found the hard drive, and
Cool.
Jared, who's in Broken Teeth with me, we hired him to kind of, you know, get in there and update the program and mix it, and we put it out, and oh my God, it's some of the best metal I've ever
You
written.
have to check that out too.
And yeah, and I'm playing bass and singing on that. And how that even was spawned is Bobby Landgraf, who plays bass in Corrosion of Conformity currently, but was also in Down with Pepper from COC, who's also in Down. Bobby was in Down, and before he was in Down, he was the guitar tech for Kirk Winstein from Down.
Okay.
And then when Kirk split to go do Crowbar, he just handed it off to Bobby, and Pepper was cool and Philip was cool. Yeah, Bobby just play. You know the songs already. We didn't skip a beat.
That's awesome.
And you know, they already knew he could do the gig. Just like, so here we go. Here's another thing about Bobby who's just awesome, and you should look him up and invite him to be on your show. Bobby Landgraf is awesome. He goes by Bobby Rock sometimes.
Okay.
Bobby he got the call to be when the Pantera resurfaced, you know, and the tribute to Pantera with Philip and Rex, and then Charlie and Zach. Right. Well, Rex called Bobby because Rex was the bass player in Down for a while. And so Bobby knew Rex and teched for Rex and, you know, the whole nine. And so when the Pantera thing, Rex called Bobby to be the bass tech.
Oh, wow.
So for 4 years, Bobby was still in the camp with all those New Orleans, Texas scene guys. Cool. And he was on the crew, the Crew from Hell's 2.0 is what they called it. And Bobby also has a show on YouTube called Crew from Hell 2.0 that you should watch. That's hilarious. He's interviewing Zach. He's hanging out. He's showing the deck, and before all the gear comes off the truck, and
that's cool.
It's really great.
Yeah, I would love that.
It's really great. It's an insight, and they did a ton of gigs with Metallica. So that's big giant circle stage they set up every day. Bobby's walking around the deck going, "Hey, check this out." Crazy. And it's like he made dude, it's so interesting.
Yeah.
And anyway, Bobby's great, and he's a really good guy. And so he's in COC now, and they just toured with Judas Priest, and I went and saw him, and hometown crowd just
that's cool.
Gave Bobby the crown, man. Bobby's just killing it. Anyway, we had this band, Godzilla Motor Company. It's really great. The whole bass playing, singing thing continued when I got off that artist formerly known as in 98. The sound guy that we had on that artist formerly tour was Ben Burton, who's passed on now. He was the drummer in this project with Bobby, and Bobby was playing guitar and writing the tunes, and the lead guitar player, his name is Chris Connolly. And Bobby and Chris had known each other forever, and Chris had moved to town recently in the late 90s, and they were jamming with Ben Burton on the drums, who was our sound guy on that. And Ben had just done the tour, so he gets back in and gets back in with Bobby and Chris and starts working on what would turn out to be Godzilla Motor Company material. And they're racking their brains going, "Man, we need a singing bass player." And Ben was like, "I just got off the road with Dangerous Toys, and Jason McMaster's playing bass and singing every night like a motherfucker. And they just called me, and it was done.
Really?
I heard the songs and I heard all the songs and started writing lyrics and punching in bass lines and shit. And it was GMC only lasted about 5 years, and we never had an official release. We played like South by Southwest Music Conference here in Austin every year, and got all kinds of great press, and people really, pundits and journalists, locals for sure, were just like, I don't see how this band just kind of came and went. And I talked to people who work for labels, like, for the most part, like, what would be something like Century Media or Seasons of Mist or something that would kind of level up with Nuclear Blast or somebody like that. Yeah. Every once in a while, I'll talk to someone that works for one of those, kind of metal, true metal labels. Yeah. And they're just like, man, we had y'all's demos and we had y'all's preliminary recordings, that you guys would pass out, and it would get all over the internet at, whatever you guys would play, South by or whatever, because we'd throw out a bunch of CDRs and shit during those festivals, and it got around. And years later, I would talk to people and they'd be like, whether it be email or whatever, they're doing an interview on a different project, and they'll go, oh, on a side note, dude, at the label, we'd sit around in the warehouse and just on our lunch break and listen to Godzilla Motor Company, and we loved that shit. So
that's so strange.
I knew that it had legs, and well, it was a strange time for music.
Yeah,
think about
that's
it.
True. Absolutely.
98 through 2002 is kind of that was our lifespan.
Yeah.
Until I got real busy with Broken Teeth, and Bobby got real busy with a band called Honky. And anyway, yeah, it's crazy.
That is crazy.
But anyway, so the whole bass playing and singing thing has been kind of intermittent with me. My chops are terrible right now, but I'm trying to get back into it. But yeah, I mean, the Artist Formerly, we recorded that. Here's some really cool intel. We recorded that record with the same guy that we recorded Pissed with. We just did Pissed in Van Nuys, California. And we did The Artist in Austin at a place called ARS, Austin Recording Studio. Brilliant name. And it's actually the same studio that we demoed Rock Shock Cowboy, Backstreet Girl, and Rattle My Cage that are on the new Demolition record.
I love all three of those songs.
Same studio that we demoed all three of those songs. The rest of the songs on Demolition, just to be clear, if I threw a wrench in your soup, they are 4-track and 8-track demos like they are talked about in the liner.
Yeah, I figured they kind of were. Like Rock Shock Cowboy, for instance. The first time I heard it, I thought, this could almost been on Hellacious Acres. It's kind of got that,
oh, yeah.
Like it totally could have been. I said, because my buddy sent it to me, and he had just got it on a streaming site. I said, I haven't listened to it yet, but I know it's coming out. And I listened to it. I said, this kind of sounds like it would come off of that album.
Well, it was written on the heels of getting off the road. We may have even had the ideas for that tune while we were on the Operation Rock and Roll tour in 91.
Yeah.
So it was written probably in that same batch, Backstreet Girl, all of those were. And then when we came home, they wanted to hear what we had so far. It was probably a thing where the label was like, should we drop this band now? Should we clean house with, let's make some calls and take inventory and see where everybody's at. And we probably weren't the only band that Sony was calling, trying to figure out what to do in freaking 1991 and 92 as such, but they wanted to see what we had, and we didn't really have a way to record at home or in our rehearsal place or whatever. So, the label sent a little check, and we went to a studio and we recorded 4 songs. 3 of them ended up on Demolition. There's one more that we didn't put on Demolition for whatever reason.
I thought Backstreet Girl sounded, it's more melodic, and I thought it was really cool. I thought that was a cool thing.
Thanks. Yeah, it's unfinished to me. I feel like, we crammed some lyrics into major key, a song that was in a major key, right? We we crammed some lyrics that were written by Mike Watson into a song with major key. And I feel like here's why I feel that way, in case anybody cares. And if they don't, I apologize, but I'll say it anyway. When you think about the chorus, you know the song, right? I'm not going to sing it for you, but you know, it says, she's my princess, a rolling backstreet girl. Then there's this giant hole where the guitars just hold out, and there's a drum beat. And then I sing the next line. Da, 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 na, 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 na. Right? And it does that 4 passes where there's this big, long, you know, this is, you know, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a whole measure of 8 where there's no singing, there's no guitar noodles or not. It's just the band holding out a chord. You see how that potentially could have been more upgraded with a better lyric for a chorus.
Right. That's kind of cool, though.
It doesn't mean that it's a terrible song. Right. It doesn't mean that we did anything wrong.
Yeah.
But you see my opinion now about the song.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
I feel like that whole measure that's just the band just holding out a note. It's kind of like, duh, what do we do now? Oh, let's sing the same melody again, you know. Yeah. And I feel like it just had, you know, there could have been some potential there with what we had moved on. We had moved on from that song and started working on something else. So.
Well, I think a good point to make is, how much time were you actually given from the record company before they wanted you to go in and demo material? How much time did you have to write new material?
Well, they wanted, you know, they wanted us to just start writing. They didn't give us a deadline.
Right.
And I think, you know, when I think about it real hard, I mean, you know, it was very different from the time they pulled us off the road to go home and write the second record. So when we get, you know, and the climate of rock, you know, I'll just say loud rock to be generic, you know, whether you call it metal or grunge or hair butt metal, whatever you want to call just rock, loud rock music, that's fine. But you know, the climate for loud rock music was very odd at that time. And they didn't give us a deadline. They didn't say anything about a window of opportunity. You know, they didn't, it was very different. The same people that were sort of in charge of our stable were not even at the label anymore. So whether that had anything to do with it or not, it's just a piece of information. So, you know, they just come home and start writing. Okay, well, yeah, we know the game. So we come home, we start writing, and it's 1992, and we're still writing.
Yeah.
Until it's a year into it, you know, from the time we got home till the time we're going, you know, ding. Well, we've been writing for a while now. We've got, you know, 70 blah songs.
That's crazy.
You know, that's enough to make like 2 mini albums.
Yeah.
So, you know, and Demolition is a result of that. Pissed is a result of that interim there, right? What ended up being 2 years between, well, when you think of early 92 and then early 94, that's an interim of 2 years. So 2 years of thumb up your butt or working your ass off to write tons of songs, but we're not going to write songs that you want to hear, obviously. So we end up calling you, you know, the label and saying, hey, we feel strong that we're ready to make a record. And you're just answering, you know, the phone calls after we send you, you know, 5 songs every 2 weeks. We've sent you 70 whatever songs, and you're going, no, that's pretty good. Nope, keep writing. Nope, keep writing. And then we just ended up calling them. Look, we want to make a record. Can you let us go so we can make a record? Yeah, you guys have been great. La, la, la. Here's the money we owe you. Oh, you got money for us too. Great. So
perfect.
It worked out great.
You know, it's funny. Like a buddy of mine have you ever heard of the Canadian band Slick Toxic?
Of course.
Yeah. So my buddy Kevin was the guitar player in Slick Toxic, and he he said in between the Doing the Nasty album going into what would have Capitol wanted to put them on a subsidiary label, and they turned it down, and they ended up releasing their second album on a more independent through A&M Records, on Strawberry Records it was. Anyways, the label kept saying, you know, as they're writing songs, we want this to be more organic. And they'd say, okay, what do you mean by organic? They're like, we don't know, but that's what we want. Like, and that was
right.
That to me really says what those times were about, like what was going on then for bands.
Well, it's kind of the blind leading the sighted, if you will.
Yeah.
Artists, I would like to think that most artists do have some kind of enlightenment. Doesn't make them any more special than anyone else on the planet, but there's supposed to be some kind of almost internal struggle for an artist to be creative,
Yeah.
Because if everything is really great all the time for
That's
you,
true.
you're one-sided for the arts,
Yeah.
Like every time you put paint to canvas, it's a happy face. That's not gonna work.
No, that's true. That is a good point, right?
Yeah, you don't really write a well-rounded song until someone runs over your dog.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, it sucks.
It kind of does,
It sucks,
right?
but it's supposed to. And I always say you have to write 100 really terrible songs to get one song that you're okay with.
That's crazy, right?
And it's okay for everyone else to hate your songs except for you. But there comes a time when you write a song that you don't particularly like,
Yeah.
that someone else is going to fall in love with.
Wow. That's crazy.
So who's right and who's wrong about what it is that you're creating and bleeding onto paper or canvas?
It's kind
or
of subjective,
whatever.
right?
That's right. And so you may be speaking someone else's language, and you might be trying your fair at a language that you're not well versed in, but you're trying really hard to write this one kind of a song. Yeah. And you don't feel like you're there yet, but then maybe accidentally, or you just kind of let it out anyway and let someone check it out, and they're floored and think it's the greatest thing that they've ever heard. And you're very uncertain about it or uncomfortable with it as an artist. And that happens sometimes too. And it also ends up turning into usually it's a manager or a label or something that hears this material that's kind of, well, here's what I got, but I don't really like it. And got to hear something. It's like the publisher going, you were supposed to be done with your book 6 months ago. You know what I mean? Well, here's what I got, but it's all crap. And then someone reads the manuscript and they're like, holy shit, this, you know what
so
I mean?
true.
And they think they can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
nuts. So it's really scary how uncomfortable you can be as a creator. Fear is really what it is. And you're not confident. It's nice to be confident, but sometimes being confident about what you have doesn't necessarily mean that everyone else is going to like it. I would like to think that really cool dudes like Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top, I feel like he knows when he's written something that's really cool and groovy and funky and fun, because that's him.
Yeah, that is so true.
That's his personality, but he's not going to keep working on something that's, he's not making a progressive metal album right now because that's his new thing.
No.
He's writing how he feels, and I feel like that's kind of important. But I also think that challenging yourself is really a great exercise for your mind and your brain and even your body. I think it's healthy. So
I agree with that.
That's what the artist formerly known as was. I just took it full circle there, but it was kind of a test of our wits. We didn't really have anything to lose because, making, physically and mentally trying to fit, a triangle block into a square hole at that time, by another way to say it would be trying to fit in somehow, which is, we made a crazy record because we didn't have anything to lose. Yep. But I also feel like we would have kind of had the same results if we would have sat down really hard and tried to just repeat ourselves like, well, we got to have a teasing pleasing, and we got to have a scared, and we got to have a sporting a woody, and we got to have a gimme no lip. And oh, how about one of those line 'em ups too?
Yeah.
And just make ourselves write the same shit again. We were in an odd position, and we knew it because of the way our team was acting, because the fact that we had lost a couple of, OG players in the band that made the band sound a certain way.
Yep.
You see what I mean?
That makes sense.
We were stuck. I mean, I'm on bass, because I was writing some tunes on guitar and bass and things like that, and I had always dabbled in that. And quite a bit of that record, a few tunes on the record I wrote, and they were collaborative, of course, but Better to Die, that's mine, and Transmission is mine.
Transmission's a cool one.
Yeah, and New Anger is mine. And New Anger is kind of what Godzilla Motor Company picked up on.
Okay.
Like, New Anger is fucking heavy.
I love that.
And Godzilla Motor Company sort of has that germ.
Okay.
So that might have been the song that Ben Burton was kind of going, ding, I'm going to remember this because this would fit with what I've got going over here,
Yeah, that's, what? The first two tracks on that album. What are they? Share the Kill?
Share the Kill. Yeah, that's Scott's. That's one of Scott's. I love that song.
That is a great
There's a
song.
reason that song, there's a reason why that song is the first song on the record.
It is such a good song.
Yeah, you hear it and you're like, oh, damn. You know what I mean? So I feel like me and Scott's sort of, minor key, crazy riffage started to really shine immediate on the record. And we knew that we were, wow, these are fucking cool. We were like, these are wild.
Yeah, you know what? It didn't matter if it was Dangerous Toys. It was just those were great songs. Didn't matter that it was a little bit different than what you'd done before because it was still cool.
It's very well said. It's very diplomatic way to say it. And I agree wholeheartedly. I'm glad that you see that and hear that and appreciate it. That's why I asked you, what do you think of the artist today as you did in 96? Because
it's a totally different thought now.
We're different people.
Exactly.
Now,
Yeah. And to listen to it today was, especially when that song came on and I'm like I'm playing it on my turntable and I've got it pretty loud and I'm like, this is heavy and this is cool. I'm really digging this. So it was, I think I dug it more than I ever did in the past because, like you said, you change.
Yeah. Some oxymoron going on too. I think that the color scheme on the artwork and the fact that Cleopatra was, of course, picking up on, everyone does that hot pink vibe.
It looks cool. It looks really cool.
It worked really well. Yeah. And then the record being so just fucking weird, it all worked out, didn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that the people that give it a chance and to relive that record when they really fucking hated it. And there's a lot of people still living off of the dust of, the trace evidence of Pissed because Pissed was such a strong Dangerous Toys record.
That was a great album.
But the fact that we were on an independent label and that I think that record probably sold, I think it scanned in SoundScan like around 30,000 copies, I think, back then.
Really? Wow.
Like who knows what it's doing now?
Yeah.
But and SoundScan of the artist formerly was only like probably 9 or 10,000.
Okay. It's funny because when I saw that, I bought it on Amazon actually, on Amazon.ca.
Mm-hmm.
So it came.
But you're talking about the reissue.
Yeah, the reissue
Cleopatra.
vinyl that I just got.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting to see some kind of bean counter thing going on and what's going on with these reissues because like I just said, this is not 1996. So people going, wow, that's really cool looking. I remember that record, and I remember I didn't like it. Maybe I ought to give it another
That's exactly
chance
what I
that
did.
looks really
That's exactly.
wow.
I said, you know what? It's on vinyl. It says it's pink. I love the album cover. It's like, I'm going to buy this one more time and I'm going to give it another chance. And I did. And I ended up liking it a whole lot more than I did back in the day.
I love that story, and I'm relating to that story because of what we keep repeating that, you know, let's hope that we've learned something about ourselves. You know, when I first heard that Black Sabbath record, like, here you go, Technical Ecstasy. That's the Black Sabbath record.
Yeah,
I need to go buy that, because when I heard it, I was like, man, this ain't Paranoid. You know,
Yep.
This is not Volume 4. This is not, Master of Reality. This is not Master of Reality. This is not, And so everybody knows that those are the Sabbath records. And I love the Dio era as well.
I do too.
Just so solid, so solid and
Amazing.
groovy.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Technical Ecstasy is like this. That's an odd bird for Sabbath, but I want to hear it. I need to go get it, and that's kind of what the artist formerly known as is like. Why is this so different than everything else?
Technical Ecstasy's got "Dirty Woman" on it, right?
That's right.
Yeah, I had that on CD. I think I may still have it. So
Yeah, I mean, I've got probably every Sabbath record there is, but I don't have that one. It's really funny.
That is funny.
That I feel like you live in the trace evidence of what you live in the dust you want to live. You live in the past that you want to live in.
Yeah,
and you fell in love with something when you were a certain age, and you can't shake it, and it's like that, and you have a romance with that, right?
That's so true.
So it's easy to just let stuff go that left a bad taste in your mouth the first time. I mean, who liked sushi the first time? I mean, I did, but the concept of sushi
You're so
sounds
right.
a little odd when you're just eating French fries and sugar all the time, So.
Well, I didn't like my first coffee, and I probably didn't like my first beer. You know what I mean? Like, it was kind of, it was just one of those things, and I totally understand what you mean. I find albums today that I listened to, and I put them on a couple times, and I tried to like them, didn't like them, but now going back and listening to them again, I'm like, why did I not like this? This is awesome. And I didn't get it then.
Yeah.
I really didn't get it.
Well, Pink Floyd and the Beatles and Queen, I mean, I feel like they made a different record every time.
That's true. They did.
David Bowie was the king of that.
Yeah.
He changed his skin every time he made a record.
Yeah, that's crazy. And how?
And you either loved it or you didn't. Obviously, there was enough people that loved what David Bowie did because he was David Bowie.
He's iconic, right?
He was a creator. And I feel like the Beatles actually showing everybody that it's okay to do that. Were probably the first pop/rock band to say, like, well, we can't make the same song every freaking time,
Yeah.
So,
but it's so brilliant.
It's up to you to have an open mind, not us, So, but they had also taken over the world at that time with their sort of sock hop stuff that was just kind of stealing from Beach Boys and Buddy Holly, right?
Yeah, it was the pop element almost, right?
Chuck Berry and sock hop and stuff.
Yeah.
And that was early. That's what rock and roll was. It was an early version of what they call rockabilly,
right?
Yeah.
So,
which is just a mix of country and folk music and dance music, and so.
Yeah, and even Elvis was kind of, in the beginning was kind of that too, right?
Yeah, a little bit of gospel.
Right.
He was borrowing from country music and soul music, early black music and blues and gospel, and really kind of creating this, probably just trying to steal from all of the blues guys and just make it rock and roll, and because Chuck Berry was already there,
right?
And the Beatles were already there, and the first stuff Elvis was doing, I think it was rock and roll, and he wasn't really a songwriter. Elvis doesn't write songs. So, Hound Dog kind of set the bar because it was a big ass hit, and that's a rock and roll song, but it's also rockabilly too.
Exactly.
It's also blues too.
Like Blue Suede Shoes, which was a Carl Perkins song that Elvis made this, because it was Elvis, I guess. He made it a big hit just as an example, right? Yeah. I mean, growing up, Elvis, my dad loved Elvis. So Elvis was in my house since I was born, more or less. So, so I knew all that gospel stuff and the rockabilly, and he would talk about Elvis a lot, right?
Well, that's where it's the roots of rock music.
Right.
All of that. Yeah. So Memphis and Nashville, places in Georgia and Alabama, kind of the Chitlin circuit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Jew joints. It's where outlaw country comes from.
Exactly.
It's the same kind of roots, folk. It's early American folk music, black or white, that converged and crossed over, that created rock music. And everything comes from basic blues. And it's just interesting that, the most extreme, loud, fast, crazy, intricate, progressive noise that people covet now, all the way back down to Mozart. You know what I mean?
It's crazy.
Where,
that's crazy.
Where there was these crazy German and English and Romanian
composers,
composers were writing with the very first acoustic instruments by candlelight, who would make pennies paid by the king to write these magnum opuses for the king's ball, his daughter's 16th birthday party, la la la, and then he'd bring in an orchestra and they play this music that he wrote, and then sometimes the king would go, this song here with all these really scary parts in it, you need to not do that. If you do that again, I will burn you at the stake.
That's crazy, right?
True story.
But
true story.
And as you're mentioning that, I'm thinking of like Tchaikovsky and stuff like that, and some of that darker stuff, which years and years later gets incorporated in metal, and metal becomes this kind of,
neoclassical,
right,
neoclassical metal and just hard rock, and Ritchie Blackmore, Yngwie Malmsteen, the Scorpions. Everything was really Baroque, and odd. And Wagner, which is just spelled Wagner.
Yes.
Wagner was the first guy that played the triad, which is used by Tony Iommi all the time in the song Black Sabbath and so on. Now it's used everywhere. It's normal. It's like cheesecake for dessert. And it's great that those dark minor chords have, diminished chords, and that I call it the flat five. If you know scales, it's the flat five, and it's really an incredible moving, an oscillating note if you're walking through that. And in pop music, or popular music, I should just say, when there's a bass line or something walking through that flat five, you don't even feel it anymore, but it's used all the time.
I mean, think that, which is, I think, is very cool. It seems funny to me that it took so long for that to be, that medieval stuff from way back, to make its way finally back into what it became into the neoclassical metal, which was hundreds of years later.
Yeah, you're not wrong, because I feel like everything was just major chords most of the time, and the blues is tons of minor. It's a lot of it's mainly minor chords and such, and that's why they called it the blues, because it had this soul and this groove and this shake to it. And it was also had those darker chords, 7 chords and 9 chords. And Jimi Hendrix, there you go.
Yeah.
Jimi Hendrix was a king of that.
He definitely was. I mean, we could talk about this forever.
Yeah. It's a whole other show.
It is a whole other show. And
I'm not a music major. I just, I know a couple of scales and but I'm not trained. So, just the fact that I have a little bit of knowledge and what makes a song dark and what makes a song happy, and how songs can evoke an emotional response because of the chords and not just the lyrics.
Exactly. And I mean, getting back to the first Dangerous Toys album, as I was listening to that the other day, like some like the riff for Tease and Pleasin' is almost like a blues derivative type of thing. It's got a bluesy vibe to it, and even
it's Chuck Berry. It's Chuck
exactly.
Berry, yeah.
And I think that's what made that so cool when that was the first song you heard, and your whole scat and the singing, and it was different, but it also, there was like that Texas thing as well, and I don't even know if you guys realize that, but it's got swing to it. It's got a boogie part in the middle, and then it's got a breakdown that's total blues. It's so cool.
And then it speeds up on the end and turns into something else. And that was, we ended up writing handful of songs that were similar to that on purpose, by accident. It's DNA, whatever, because we just know what we like when we're playing a groove, and if we get bored, then we need to make sure we realize it's like we need to be moving right here, don't we? And, it's like having a conversation. A song should be kind of having a conversation with itself the whole time, and that you try not to get off topic. But that doesn't mean the song can't speed up or slow down or go into a new part or a new color for a second.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that song, that's why it stood out to me when I first heard it.
Yeah. But see, I think a song like Line 'Em Up, that's total blues and swinging, it's got that funk. It's got a ZZ Top, It's got, Line 'Em Up has that groove, that same groove that's in Cheap Sunglasses by ZZ Top, and no one gets it. No one realizes
that's amazing. And I mean, that vocal at the beginning, I mean, you've got to line 'em up. Yeah. It's so cool.
Yeah, it
hits
fun.
you right in the face right away, right? You're like, oh, what is this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's funny too. It's funny sound to me. I crack up when I hear it. If it comes on somewhere, I'm like, oh yeah, that's funny. Because it's just odd. It's odd sound. It's still odd to hear myself. So.
It's cool.
But and that's, I think that this kind of leads us up into, by 99 and then the early 2000s, and then here we are 20 some odd years into just playing celebration of now being considered a lefty band by our legion of fans, which are, there's not billions of them, but we don't care. The fact that people still care and want to come out and celebrate what we created when we were young, still bugging us about making a new record is also telling as well. And then Cleopatra wanting to do a demos album, I also think I
thought that was cool.
Turned out really great too.
I'm glad that came out and that was done, because I thought that was amazing. That there's new music we hadn't heard before. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, even though it's 30 years old.
It didn't matter.
Kind of cool.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like, okay, what else were they doing that we never got to hear?
Yeah.
Which I love. So anyways, Jason, I want to thank you for joining me and taking the time with me. Is there anything you'd like to add? Anything else? I know you guys are doing the Monsters of Rock cruise, I believe, in April as well.
Yeah, we are doing a cruise in April. We are doing Monsters on the Mountain in Gatlinburg in August. We have a couple of things in May. We're playing our stomping grounds down here in Austin on May 30th. And that's always fun. A lot of people fly down for that. And it sells out. It sells out once in a while, but you know, it's everybody's on a budget. I get that. So it usually sells out when there's a flux of people coming from all over the world to check it. You know, to see us in our hometown is kind of cool.
See, I would love to do that. That would be amazing.
Yeah, we've had some pilgrimages, you know, make it down to do that. Let's see. We do. Oh, we're on Picktown Palooza in Ohio.
Oh,
on I think June 11th.
Okay.
And we're on right in front of LA Guns, our good buddies LA
Cool.
Guns.
Okay.
And the night before, I think, is Bullet Boys Enough's Enough and Rhino Bucket.
Cool.
So it's a 3-day thing, and Vinny Appice is going to do a Sabbath thing.
Oh, that's cool.
And there's a Beatles tribute thing going on too, but that's in July in Pinkerington, Ohio. Say that fast 3 times.
I'm getting.
So,
well, I mean, Ohio's not that far for us, so you never know.
far out, yeah.
You know, you never know. I'm going to look that up and see.
It's the second weekend of July.
Okay,
so
it all depends on my gig schedule as well too. So
it's June or July. Don't quote me.
Okay,
on
I'll
that.
look it up.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
But it's called Picktown Palooza. There's a website.
Okay,
so
I'll check that out. All right.
yeah.
Okay, man. Well, hopefully, I mean, I wish you all the best with all that stuff and with all those gigs.
Thanks.
And hopefully, I'm sure we'll get to talk again because it was a blast.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Tyson.
Okay, Jason. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
You
Okay.
too.
Cheers.
Bye. I'm from South Texas, Corpus Christi, Gulf of Mexico, and that first album was in my older brother's record collection. And I have 3 brothers, and they all turned me on to different kinds of music. And I'm in the middle. I have 2 older and 1 younger. And yeah, I think it was my brother Joe, who's just, 5-6 years older than me.
Yeah.
And he had the Moxie, the first album, and I remember like it was yesterday. He had a bunch of cool shit in his record collection, and Moxie was one of them. And I used to sneak up to his room when he'd go to school and listen to that Moxie record. And I was like, and Moxie was a big deal down in San Antonio, which is just right down the road from us. And Joe Anthony is a DJ down there that broke Moxie in the area. He broke Legs Diamond, he broke Rush and Triumph. He was like the first station in South Texas to play all these kick-ass Canadian bands, and
That's so cool.
he broke UFO and Saxon. I mean, those bands would start their tours in South Texas just so they could get to San Antonio and play for these really rabid fans that were, listening on 99.5 in concert Joe Anthony show. So he, Moxie I think Moxie still has a couple of markets they can play, and San Antonio is one of them. Ask Earl about it; he'll tell you.
Yeah, I think they're.
I think they're coming.
I think they're coming.
I'm not lying.
I think they're coming down there.
I don't doubt it at all.
I think the boys were talking about it, and that they might be. I mean, they're playing in Sweden. They're playing a festival in Sweden this summer, the first week of July. But I think they're coming to Texas too, which is pretty awesome.
I am not shocked. There's pockets in Texas is big. You can go on tour for 2 weeks in Texas and not play the same place.
That's cool.
Because it's so big. You know, you can play 2 hours, 3 hours apart from each city and be here, 10 days.
Yeah. Because, I mean, I think the Killer Dwarfs did well in Texas too, did they not?
100%. Yeah. Same story goes for Killer Dwarfs as well. I remember hearing Dirty Weapons on 99.5 KISS going, oh, yeah. And, that kind of rock music is just, it was staple. And all the kids, people my age that have kids, that's what they grew up on is Moxie. And same story. The story is there needs to be a movie about it.
There should be. I mean, that's so cool. I mean, I have heard that about Texas and the Dwarfs and Moxie and a lot of the Canadian bands doing well down there, and Triumph, of course, which is cool. And I mean, it's amazing that Triumph is doing a reunion this year.
Yeah,
which is so cool.
Unreal.
Yeah. I never thought I would see that, but I
think it's also great. Yeah, it's also great and this might have some different opinions here and there, but I think it's great that Geddy and Alex can't put it down.
Yes.
So they're just going to go out and get their yayas out and have fun and find their smiles because, they have every right to still be mourning in my book.
I agree.
as far as what they lost a superhuman.
Yeah.
And a good friend who they grew up together and conquered the world with, and they're not ready to put it down. That's okay. Let those guys go have fun.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the music should be heard too, right? As long as if they're still around. I mean, those are some big shoes to fill, obviously.
Yeah. Well, I don't recall her name, but I know that she's the way to go, and I know that having that youth in there will keep Geddy and Alex on their fucking toes.
Yeah. That's amazing.
She can handle it. She can handle it. She'll go, come on, old man. Come on, old man. Come on, old man. She's going to be the one. She's going to be the fire.
That's amazing. I don't even know who that is, to be honest with you.
I can't, her name was on everybody's mouth the week that they announced the tour, but I don't recall right now. Embarrassing.
Rock talk. It's non-stop rock talk with Tyson Bryden. Come on for the ride. We'll take you inside.